I'm Jesús, and I'm presenting a feasible solution to an underrated problem that can have a huge impact on a project or company's success. It is related to metrology, the area of measurement and data collecting. The will to progress is intricate in humanity, and to progress, science is needed. And to do science, it is required to research. And within this large concept, in its basis, there is data collecting. Every project, call it company or academic research, is ruled by data in terms of constraints and requirements. Companies need them to improve their efficiency, make decisions, or control or monitor their production systems, among others, in order to succeed. However, the misunderstanding of this data could lead to losses in terms of money and sometimes even lives. That is why it is so important to be cautious whenever collecting and analyzing data, and sometimes engineers lack of knowledge in this area. For a moment, let's imagine that you run a successful company where governments invest on it. As a project, you have to launch a spacecraft to Mars to collect some data. You've expended lots of resources and even hired some of the best scientists in the world to cooperate and get this done. The day of the launching, everything seems to be okay, but a few days later, you realize and you find out that the spaceship got lost. With a heavy heart, you start tracking the error within the construction and calculation process, but everything adds up. But you realize that despite having some of the most rigorous filters of information to check every step of the process, that you missed something so basic that you weren't even prepared for it. According to the New York Times, that what happened to NASA in 1999 when a $125 million spacecraft ran 60 miles of course as it approached to Mars. Because they forgot to convert from pounds to newtons in their pass of information. Pike, the ex-director of the Special Police, the FSA, in Washington, said that this would set precedent for colleges and universities to reinforce their introductory concepts and courses of metrology. Students need to be able to select instruments properly, know how they work and their limitations for a correct data collection. In the University of Los Andes, this course is called Fundamentals of Experimentation, and it is the first approach to laboratory practices. However, measuring instruments specifically are not covered enough, as there are other concepts that require more attention because they are new for students. Fortunately, the solution is as basic as the problem. With a simple, well-structured, detailed, clear documentation of measuring instruments containing an inventory, classification, characterization, and evaluation, students will overcome this issue. To implement this solution, because of the wide concept of metrology, in order to be effective, it needs to be focused on something. That's why some variables need to be decided. The suggested ones are for stored pressure because they represent the kinetics, and position, velocity, and acceleration, which represents the kinematics. This is separated by a variable of high influence in the measuring process, which is temperature. Secondly, to approach students to the instruments they will be related the most throughout their academic years, an inventory is necessary. And to do this inventory, it can be used the database online of the mechanical engineering department, MechaLab, or by talking with the faculty staff. Information about the type, storage, manufacturer, cost, and data sheet will help students to understand more characteristics of these instruments. Third, the instruments must be separated into categories based on the operating principles, as this will cover more range and will help them understand every single type and physics behind it. With a calibration process documented as well, using international standard guidelines as ISTM and ICONTEC, students will understand where the reliability of the instrument comes from. Besides, it is needed a measuring guidelines with tips given by the professors and their experience of how to use and sort of a tutorial for these instruments. And finally, an analysis of characteristics and environments will help students understand why a certain element is selected and the justification behind that. The content should look something like that, where a variable represents each chapter. Some of the advantages is that the methodology does not be affected, ergo there is no money spent on that, and the students will have access whenever they feel the need. Besides, with their improvement on their data result analysis, they can propose some methods to minimize errors while collecting data. Finally, this is a very feasible and economic solution, and it only requires time. It is important to remember that this is just a tool, and a tool is only as good as its user. Thank you.